I just got finished watching WWE's Bad Blood pay-per-view 2024, and I have to say, if you take out Hell in a Cell, the whole show was mid to a T. But let's get into this in a little bit further detail. Before the show had started, we had 5 official announced matches by WWE. Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk inside Hell in a Cell. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. Bayley versus Nia Jax for the WWE Women's Championship. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. And the main event, the Bloodline taking on Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. That is about the right order that these ended up going in. It changed a little bit other than that, but I'm going to be going down the card and down the list of all the matches and stating my opinions on them. And we got started with, by like 8 miles, the best match of this night, Hell in a Cell with Drew McIntyre and where's Drew? Drew McIntyre and CM freaking Punk. Punk ended up winning this match. I did not predict that. I predicted Drew would win. I predicted that a while ago, but it did not come true. It came back to bite me. So I was 0-1 when it came to that. But that doesn't even matter because this match was a banger, and this is probably the best Hell in a Cell match that WWE has had in years. When you look at WWE's Hell in a Cell matches as of late, for example, let's take post-2009. What was the last good one? When was the last violent one? When was the last bloody one? It's this match, because this match is insanely bloody. It's super rough, and it benefits greatly off of that fact. It ends up with a lot of bumps that don't make either man bleed, but in the same moment look super painful to take. For example, there's one, I'm going to use this as the stairs for a second. Drew's trying to go for a Claymore on Punk. He misses, and his back lands right here, and he has to slide down the stairs. It looks so painful because it's that, and then he also kind of lands right by the actual corner. So you're like, ooh, my lower back would not want to handle that move. And then there's a wrench getting battered into both men's heads throughout the match. Both men bleed so much. Drew ends up bleeding like Eddie Guerrero did, and Punk ends up bleeding more in the fashion of JBL when he was against Cena in Unforgiven 05. But at the same time, the amount of pints of blood spilled in this match is so many pints. You know how in Mortal Kombat, if you score, like you bleed enough, you get an achievement for it? Yeah, this match got like 8 achievements while it was going on. I will say, by a mile, best match of the night, 5 stars. I'm just being open. This was a 5-star classic that Punk ended up winning. I think the finish was a bit telegraphed. Once I saw what was coming, I was like, dang it, I was going to get this one wrong about 2 minutes before the finish. But even then, still a great match, great finish, great brutality. I do recommend you check this match out and then turn off the show. But there are 4 other matches that I do have to cover here and a pair of segments to boot. Then we moved on to Nia Jax versus Bayley. This was surprisingly solid, especially in the death slot after a banger match. You're like, I don't know, are the crowd going to like this? Is the match going to be any good? And they actually held their own. I'm not saying it's a 5-star classic like the previous match, but it held its own. It was like, okay, this is a solid match. I'm kind of impressed with some of these spots. A few of the things went a little haywire, like Nia Jax trying a Hurricane Rana. A sentence I thought I would never say in my life. But otherwise, it was still entertaining. Nia ended up retaining her title. There were some Tiffany shenanigans in there, but my prediction is still true. I think that this was the first or second tease at a pay-per-view for Tiffany cashing in. Therefore, Tiffany will cash in at Survivor Series. Because, yes, you have Crown Jewel, but Triple H announced something about that. We'll get to that a little later on. I think you have the cash in at Survivor Series. That's when Tiffany becomes champion. Voila. But Nia ended up retaining her title with an Annihilator. Move always looks good, and she did a bit of like a... How do I say this without getting demonetized? Arousing pose afterwards, I will say. She also did a weird pose on the ropes where she was like leaning over them like, yeah, I won. I'm like, what is going on here? Freaky Jax, I guess. But nonetheless, a solid match. Then we moved on to Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. This was surprisingly entertaining. When I was going in, I was like, I'm not really interested in this build. I'm sure they're going to have a solid match, but I'm really not feeling it. And it was the most Judgment Day match you can have of all time. Like, it was just Judgment Day from start to finish. You have Babyface, does pretty well. Heel comes back occasionally, starts beating up the Babyface for a while. Babyface starts making comeback. Judgment Day comes in to interfere. Babyface is about to lose. Babyface kicks out and ends up winning the match with their finisher. That was exactly how this match ended up going. Damien's the babyface, Finn is the heel. It's If you look on Raw 2022, this match is on every single Raw in 2022 with different people inserted in the babyface role, and depending on who goes over, depending on who it is. If it's like Madcap Moss, he's not winning, but you get my point. Nonetheless, it was a solid enough match. Again, probably on par with Bayley and Nia, if not a little bit worse, but nothing horrendous up to this point. Now, I don't remember the order of the segments that happened on this show, but I'm pretty sure one of them happens right after this, so I'm just going to throw them all together right here. So we got to see Triple H come out. He had his like, oh yeah, the crowd loves me, woohoo! And he decided to come out and he was like, okay, everybody. So at Crown Jewel, we are making a huge change. This is the start of a new era in WWE. Instead of having championship matches, we will have just the concept for Survivor Series. That's literally all he said. At Crown Jewel. And the winner will be declared the Crown Jewel best in the company or something championship. And then he revealed the belt. I'll throw it up on screen right now. I don't think it looks very good. I think it has a lot of diamonds and gems on it, so like, woo! But, okay, sure. It doesn't really matter to me because I don't really care. It's just like Shane McMahon winning the Best in the World Cup. He is not the best in the world. It does not matter. Nonetheless, it was okay. And Gunther ended up coming out right after this. He was talking on the mic a little bit, and since it was in Atlanta, Goldberg was in the crowd, and he was talking to Goldberg about how, actually, Goldberg, you are not my idol. In fact, I sure hope, for your son's sake, that you are a better father than you are a professional wrestler. Why am I saying this in an Irish accent? I'm tired, okay? It's 10:48 at night. I need to go to sleep. But nonetheless, Goldberg was like, what are you saying about my son and I? He came out to the ring. He was like, what's going on over there? Security came in. They stopped him, said, okay, Goldberg, no, not right now. And then he had to be like, all right, fine. But Sami Zayn ended up running out, beating up Gunther, and then Gunther ran away because they do have their world title match coming up on Raw next week. Nonetheless, we moved on to the penultimate match of the night, Liv Morgan versus Dominic Mysterio, and also the worst match of the night. Liv Morgan versus Dominic Mysterio. I am so tired and so disoriented. Liv and Rhea, but Dom is in a shark cage. This match, as a match, is fine, broadly fine. There's nothing really too special about it. It's just the two of them having an okay match in the middle of the ring. The problem is that I couldn't pay attention to the match. I just couldn't watch it because it wasn't interesting. It felt like the most basic Zelina Vega versus BFAB match you could see on SmackDown. Like, there was nothing about it that was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And I was so focused on Dominic because he was, like, doing stuff in the shark cage, messing around. I was like, oh, Dominic's doing some pretty fun stuff. Oh, the ring? Yeah, I don't care about that. I didn't care. And then the finish came, and the finish, you know when you get a good beer and you're like, oh, man, I love this beer. And you get a couple glasses of it, and then by about your fourth or fifth glass, you excuse yourself to use the restroom, and you had some bad like tacos beforehand, so you're in the bathroom for like an hour, and then when you come back, the beer is completely flat. There's nothing to it. Yeah, that's about how flat this finish was. So what they were trying to do is Dominic is hanging out of the shark cage. He's like, oh no, I'm stuck. And Rhea Ripley is beating him up. Whack, whack, whack. Then the referee is supposed to go over to the thing and be like, stop doing that. And Rhea's supposed to go back into the ring where Liv is down. She walks back in until Raquel Rodriguez comes back, beats up Rhea Ripley, and puts Liv on top, allowing for the pinfall. That's what they were trying to have happen. Instead, Dominic is still hanging upside down. Rhea goes over to beat him up. Raquel, instead, before the referee has even left the ring, goes over to her, starts beating her up outside the ring. Referee has to walk past them like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Dominic, get down from there. as Raquel slowly throws her back in the ring and then puts Liv on top of her, like, oh, yeah, she'll still win the match by pinfall, right? And then the match just ended by DQ. It made zero sense. It was not cool, completely flat. The crowd didn't recognize Raquel at first. Dismal work here. And then they did some digital exclusive that I'm not going to bother to probably look at until after I'm done recording this because I don't care. But it really was not anything good, and the match itself was boring. So I can't say anything more than like 2 stars here. I will say I have predicted all 3 of these matches correctly. And yes, technically, I said Liv was going to win, and she didn't. But she did retain her title, so I'm counting that as correct. Then we move on to the main event, which was Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. Let me get them real quick. Cody, that's Jimmy Uso. Where's Roman? And Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa, and I don't have Jacob Fatu, so Jimmy is going to be Jacob for the sake of this. This was weird because the match goes around 25 minutes, which is short for a Bloodline match, if I'm being honest. And as per usual for a Bloodline match, it is a Bloodline match the whole way through. It's the heels work over the baby faces, but the first 10 minutes is pretty even. Then they work over the baby face for about 10 minutes. And then the last 5 minutes, the bad guys come in and they try and mess with the baby face. But sometimes the babyface has an ally who comes in and beats up the Bloodline, and then the Bloodline loses. That is how this match ended up going. As Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga came out, they tried to beat somebody up. Oh no, who's this man in a hood? And he has this little mask on. Who could it be? It's Jimmy Uso. He super kicked both of them. Tama and Tonga. Bah! Bah! He was like, ha ha, I'm gonna get you guys. And then Solo's like, shoot, I'm cooked. He turns around, Roman Reigns is right there. Spear, 1, 2, 3, and Reigns and Cody end up winning. Post-match, they're celebrating together. They're very tense as Roman is able to hand Cody the title belt without going like, no, I want to keep it or anything like that. No shenanigans here. Cody, as he's raising the title up, he's like, yeah, we did it. If you smell what The Rock is cooking. Dwayne The Rock Johnson made his return to WWE after, what is it now? 6 months. So I guess that's pretty cool. It was a very weird return because this is all he did. I am being completely 100% serious. That is literally all he did on the televised show. Now, he did do an Instagram live where he said a few more things, I am, the final boss. Normal Rock things. You can go look at that on his Instagram. It's probably been posted on YouTube and Twitter a bazillion times up to this point. But really all he did on the show was just come out, didn't say a word, made a couple of hand gestures like he's in a gang, and then peaced out. It was a really odd finish, and if you don't have like social media or any other method of seeing the programming, you would be so confused right now. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are in that situation. They're like, what? Why did The Rock come back? Like, huh? Why would he do something like that? Why would he blah, blah, blah? And it was a little weird to me. The match itself was fine. I think this show was, other than Hell in a Cell itself, I think every other match was in the same vein as LA Knight versus Roman Reigns from Crown Jewel 2023, where it is the most basic form of this match you can possibly get. Remember, that match is just the most Roman Reigns during his title reign match you can possibly muster. Like 2.5 stars, exact same formula, bleh. And that is the last match of this show. It's Finn and Damian, and arguably it's Rhea and Liv. Even though Sharkade matches haven't been done for a while, it's just had a bad ending and all. But I do think the show is saved by the Hell in a Cell, and I do think the first 2 mid-card matches do hold up quite well. I think the second to last match and the last match aren't great, but I do think that the main event is good enough to put this show in the solid B category for shows around the year. If we were just looking at the main event, it would be in a tier at the first match, it would be in a tier of its own. But unfortunately, that match is weighed down by the rest of the show. There was one other thing, though, that happened not on the show, not on the press conference, but happened for the story build nonetheless. As some cameras caught Kevin Owens talking to Cody after the show and then proceeding to beat him up and with a really solid right hand. I was watching the original clip and I saw kind of a close up and I was like, oh, this is just story. And I didn't see the very beginning of the fight. And at the very beginning, Kevin just bops him right in the face with a punch. I'm like, dang, Kevin, is it that serious? He throws a trash can at him. Security has to separate him, and Kevin drives off. But Cody once again getting beat up by an ally. I'm assuming they're going to address this on Raw. Probably say, this is what happened after the show was over. We saw Kevin and Cody have a massive brawl, blah, blah, blah. But it was kind of weird that they did this now in a way that fans could see it, and at the same time making it so that it could get broadcasted among social media channels. I do think this will be interesting leading into Raw and SmackDown, but we will see where that goes when we get there. Nonetheless, I think the show is probably around a B minus or so. What do you think? Make sure to let me know down in the comments down below. Make sure you have a good day, good evening, good night, good morning, good on, good dusk, whatever. Make sure to watch for more content coming soon. I do have a bit of a weird schedule right now, but I try and upload whenever I can. Watch any former or future content, and goodbye.